What is up, everybody? We are back to talk about the ZOZO Championship. Before we do, quickly want to recap the Shriners Children's Open. Big congrats to JT Poston. Always been one of my favorite golfers on the PGA Tour. Didn't have any exposure to him outside of large field stuff last week, and they didn't have him in the outright market, but still good to see him get another win. One of my biggest weeks ever was when he won the John Deere Classic. Now, last week was a great example of why we need to be paying attention to the weather. I believe there was a 3.7 stroke advantage for the AM wave compared to the PM wave, which is just absolutely massive. We saw a couple guys like Doug Gim, end up overcoming that wind or disadvantage from the PM wave. But man, that is a big discrepancy there. But I will note, man, it looked like the 66 percentage was going to be 20 to 25% as of Saturday morning. Round two got pushed into Saturday because of the wind. And then, man, all the chalk just absolutely bombed on Saturday morning. Ended up hurting my lineups, ended up hurting a lot of people's lineups. I only ended up getting 2 of 50, 6 of 6 through the cut. But my main lineup ended up doing good for the second week in a row. So perhaps that is thanks to, me redoing the model a little bit, adding the field strength metric, adding the upside and floor metrics. Or perhaps, it's just a little bit of a coincidence. But I like to think of the former. Now, let's talk about the ZOZO Championship. This is going to be the strongest field that we see in the fall because there are a lot of FedEx Cup points up for grabs. And it is going to take place in Japan. This is a no-cut event, only 78 golfers in the field. I believe there are, 10 to 15 Japanese golfers that got invites from the Japan Tour. So we'll talk about a few of them. And I do think it's a pretty good spot to be overweight on a lot of those golfers. As far as the course goes, it is the Cordia Golf Narashino Country Club. It's a par 70, 7,079 yards. Tree-lined parkland course. The last 4 winners, the only 4 winners here, Colin Morikawa, Keegan Bradley, Hideki Matsuyama, Tiger Woods. Now, those are 4 of the best ball strikers that we've seen on tour the last, 20 years. Morikawa, fairways, elite iron player. Keegan Bradley, good total driver, good iron player. Hideki Matsuyama, elite iron player. Tiger Woods, best iron player of all time. So they're certainly, and they're all really good golfers. You could argue that Keegan, isn't quite as good as the other 3, but we haven't had a lot of surprise winners. And we haven't had, short game specialists or anything like that win here in the past. So something to keep in mind as you are looking to bet golfers this week and maybe for DFS as well. In terms of difficulty, 12th, 15th, 11th, and 15th. So pretty difficult course. This par 70 is a little bit unique in that it does feature 3 par 5s. Water's going to play on 4 of the holes. We don't have any shot link data from this course, which does think, we're not going to have a shot tracker. So it's just going to be shot 1 from the fairway, shot 1 from the tee, shot 2 from the fairway, shot 3 from the green. That's going to be our version of shot tracker that we get this week. And since we don't have any shot link data, we don't really have a ton to rely on when it comes to course fit. However, last year, the field only hit 48% of the fairways. These fairways are very difficult to hit, but the average driving distance was 313 yards. So that's 20 yards higher than tour average. So I expect a lot of drivers to be hit this week. The greens, there's 2 greens on every hole. They're only going to be using 1 green on 17 and 18 holes. They are going to mix it up. I think on the 4th hole, they're going to be using both greens throughout the tournament. The average green regulation here last year was 63%, a little bit lower than tour average. So guys that can avoid bogeys, guys that can scramble, definitely going to be an advantage this week. Or guys that just hit a bunch of greens. Maybe that's the better path to success. Morikawa, Keegan, Hideki, and Woods, again, the 4 previous winners, all guys that very good at hitting greens in regulation. There is ZOZO grass on the rough and the fairway. That does give a bigger advantage to those that keep it in the fairway because ZOZO grass tends to give tricky lies in the thicker rough, and then it tends to give, little perched up lies in the fairways. The greens themselves, they are pretty small, and they do feature bent grass. So let's get into the model for the week. I have 6% off the tee, 6% to total driving. We don't have the expected approach call or matchup metric this week because we don't have shotting data from the past, like I mentioned, so we don't really know how far golfers are going to be hitting their approach shots from. But yeah, so I have a 11% weight to stroke gain approach, 3% around the green, 8% putting, 3% birdie or better, 3% bogey avoidance. I don't mind bumping up around the green. I don't mind bumping up bogey avoidance because I do think those metrics are going to matter this week. Course history, I only have it at 3% because it hasn't been all that predictive year in and year out. And at the same time, I also have stroke gain total in Asia over the last 5 years. So there is going to be some overlap there because we haven't seen a lot of PGA Tour events in Asia. So there's definitely some overlap between these two columns here. So I weight them each at 3%. Guys that performed the best in no-cut events over the last 2 years. Victor Perez, kind of surprising. Bo Hosler, Colin Morikawa, Ryo Ishikawa, and JJ Spawn. Guys that play the best on difficult par 70 courses: Xander, Morikawa, Max Homa, Hideki, and Minwoo Lee. Then we have just the cuts made and recent finishes. We have the upside metric here, how often golfers finish in the top 5% of the field that they're playing in, the top 10%, the top 25%. So I like to use this column to look for a little bit more upside. Somebody like, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but he's only played one event, and these only include Korn Ferry Tour, PGA Tour, DP World Tour. So I'm guessing that was over on the DP World Tour. But somebody like Xander, Hideki, Morikawa, Tagala all have a bunch of upside. Kevin Yu is a guy that tends to pop a lot. He doesn't have the highest floor, doesn't finish in the top 25% all that often. But when he does, he tends to be at the top of the leaderboard. So somebody like that, somebody that I love to play in tournaments. And then if you're looking for like cash games, small field stuff, I kind of like to rely on the top 25 percentile finish. Somebody like Sung Jae, really high floor, Ben Griffin, Siwoo Kim, just guys that make a lot of cuts and finish pretty high in the fields that they're playing in. Then we have the short-term, mid-term, long-term form. I only have the short-term at 9%, much lower than the mid-term and long-term because over the last 3 months, a lot of the golfers in this field just haven't played a lot. So the results are definitely going to be a little bit skewed. And then we have 13% for field strength index. Again, this takes into account the strength of the fields that they are playing in. One of the things that most models in the DFS industry don't take into account is field strength. So something that's very important in terms of incorporating into my model. And that's what I added a couple weeks ago. So somebody like, let's see. So let's do long-term, see who's like the best long-term with it. So somebody, where we go here? Sam Stevens, really good on a stroke gain per round basis, but not playing in the best of fields. Same for Ben Silverman. So his projections are actually going to go down because he hasn't been playing against much weaker fields. Same with Chan Kim. Yeah, that's kind of what the field strength index does. Now let's get to the overall rankings. You have Xander at the very top. No surprise there. Best golfer in the field, second best golfer in the world. He's been in great form all year. Won 2 majors. He's got 2 top 10s at this course. No issue with him whatsoever. I will note that the pricing is a little bit more difficult this week. Colin Morikawa at 10.5 is probably my favorite play up here. He won here last year. This is showing a win. This was at the Tour Championship. He did have the lowest 72-hole score, but he didn't win the event because he was starting so far back. But also has a 7th place finish here. Love the course fit as well. So I like starting with Xander, but certainly no issue starting with. I like starting with Morikawa, but no issue starting with Xander. Sung Jae probably going to be a core play for me as well. Been in good form over the last few months. A couple top 12 finishes here. A guy that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So when you get him on a difficult course like this, certainly makes some sense. And he likes par 70s quite a bit too. Hideki Matsuyama's won here before. We have Sahith Theegala, who I never seem to get right, but back-to-back top 7 finishes, and he's played here twice, both top 20s. Love Kurt Kitayama. Ball striking numbers the last 2 weeks have been elite, and he's 2 for 2 here. Well, I guess everyone's never missed a cut here, but 2 for 2 in terms of top 30 finishes. How about that? Hosler's been playing great too during the fall swing. He's finally gained strokes ball striking for the longest time. In the spring, he was kind of flashing some upside with the ball striking, so I kept betting him to win. And then all summer, man, it was just all short games. The ball striking was nowhere to be found. But he's found something again in the last 3 weeks, and pretty good track record here too. Nearly won here last year. So I do like Hostler at 8,900. Seamus Power projects well. Man, he really blew up on his back nine Saturday morning. To miss the cut, that was kind of brutal. But prior to that, he'd been really good form. 3 top 11s still in his last 5 events. Siwoo Kim should be pretty comfortable playing in Japan. He's played here 3 times, and obviously grew up playing in Korea. So I think compared to a lot of the regular PGA Tour players, he's going to be more comfortable just playing in a different part of the world. Doug Gim, coming off the second place finish game, he was in the bad wave too, so that was really impressive. The ball striking numbers are always good. Didn't play well here in his only appearance, but I do think Doug Gim is interesting. He's one of those guys that should give himself a lot of birdie looks. The short game is always a concern, so if he's not hitting greens, that could be a recipe for disaster. Matt McNeely, T16 last week, a couple top 25s here, don't mind him. Min Woodley never projects well. Any model you're going to look at never projects well. He's always overpriced compared to his projection. That's just how it is. People love to play him. People love to bet him. That's why he's always overpriced. And so 9,300, I don't love the price, but I do think this is a really good spot for him. T6 here last year. He hasn't been great in America, but every other part of the world, he's just crushed. So I think it could be a sneaky spot for Min Woo. And he is 30-1. I don't hate that number in the outright market as well. Spawn's been playing well. I'll get back on Spawn this week at 8,300. No interest in JT. Just want to see it a little bit first. He hasn't played in a while. I guess he was snubbed for the President's Cup if you want to play that angle, but not for me. Patrick Rogers, probably not for me either. I don't really trust his short game on a difficult course. I do like Victor Perez. He's been making a lot of cuts recently. And pretty good track record on no-cut events and in Asia, so sign me up for that. Harry Hall, another good finish last week, T9. Eric Cole ruined a lot of my lineups, including my best lineup. But, man, second-place finish here last year. And, again, last week was just so weird. We could maybe throw it out the window. The wind was crazy. Everything got pushed back. Just a lot more factors in play than usual. So I don't mind going back to Eric Cole. Grazerman, no strong take there. Putnam, no strong take. I do like Chan Kim to bounce back. He got off to a really rough start on Thursday. I think he lost 4.3 strokes putting. Ended up missing the cut, but he was close. He battled back, almost made the cut. He's 2 for 2. God, I keep saying 2 for 2, but he T41, T15 here in his 2 appearances here. Griffin, high floor play, but I worry about his driving on this course. Like him on easier courses a little bit more. Benton. So he came out and shot the 60 at the Black Desert Championship, the opening round, and then he's really struggled his last 5 rounds now. Missed the cut on the number last week, so I don't know. I don't have a strong take there. Really good iron player, though, if you want to play that angle. Meissner's been playing well. Don't mind getting on him. Stevens. Fishburne's got some really good ball striking numbers recently. Ryan Fox tends to play well in other parts of the world like this. Keep moving down. Woodland's been interesting. I mean, back-to-back top 20 finishes. Ball striking numbers have been elite. He's only played here once, but he was T5 here in 2019. The year Tiger Woods won. That was a very good memory for yours truly. Don't mind Lauer at 6,900. Okay, now let's talk about some of the Japanese players in the field. You have Takumi Kanaya. He's been in really good form over on the Japan tour. I think he's got like 4 top 5s in his last 5 or 6 events. T7 here in 2021. Look at the outright market, 110-1 is pretty good in terms of the guys priced around him. So I'll play some of him. Don't mind Cage Lee. He's not one of the Japanese golfers, but I wanted to mention him too. Yeah, Ryo Hisatsune. He's 12, teach 6 here the last 2 years. And look how much he's been playing this fall. So he's played 6 times in the last 7 weeks. Look at somebody like I don't know, Xander, Morikawa, Sanjay. None of these guys have played in the last 7 weeks, other than the President's Cup. So I think guys that are just, in rhythm are interesting plays this week. So I like Hisatsune. Taylor Moore, I'm fine with him. Kensei Hirata, I think he's won 3 times in his last 7 or 8 starts on the Japan Tour, and he was T6 here last year, so I'll play some of him. I'll play some Shugo Imihara. He is only 6,900. He's 125-1, so definitely better Vegas odds than a lot of the guys priced around him. T18 here in 2021. Hasn't played well in the other 3 years, but the fact that he's seen this course for the 5th time is interesting. Lee Hodges had some good course history here. that should just about do it. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Have fun with the model this week. Create your own ratings, mess with the weights, upload them to the lineup HQ. Have some fun with it, and best of luck. So we'll catch you back here next week. Good luck, everybody.